I'm not going to get scary until like page 2. I'm just going to lead into it.
All right, that's when the skeletons show up.
Yeah, let's talk about the Long Beach Pike Pier.
Okay.
If you remember, at the turn of the century, Abbot Kinney was already building amusement piers in Venice Beach. Long Beach, our Southside sister, similarly had seaside why did I write that? Our Southside sister similarly had seaside amusement.
This is part of our warm-up before our vocal
that's
warm-up.
right.
Our seaside sister slips silently through the sunlit seals.
They also had amusement piers and amusements.
Fun.
Yeah.
Amusements.
Thanks to a man named Charles Drake. So by 1902, they had a bathhouse, a cafe, a bowling alley, and a 60 by 120 foot concrete pool that became known as the Plunge, which always sounds great. All this at the end of the Red Line car.
Which is a great name for something dangling off of the end of a pier.
5 years later, they introduced a ballroom, a movie theater, roller coaster rides. It's like the Jackrabbit, which later became the iconic Cyclone Racer, and an auditorium. This is like through the years. They also had something called Bisbee's Spiral Airship, which looks really cool. It looks like I guess like you're in a little dangling box, and you ascend this tower, like this, and then you just spin around the tower, like spiral down it. It's like old timey, but it looks exciting.
I can't even picture that. Like a gumball machine.
A little bit like a gumball machine, yeah. That's probably a better way to describe it. I'll send you a picture and you'll be like, oh, a gumball machine.
Oh, nice gumball machine.
By 1910, Charles Loof would put the Hippodrome in Santa Monica Pier, did the same thing for Long Beach. So Long Beach had a really dreamy oceanside pleasure pier, and it got nicknamed the Walk of a Thousand Lights, but soon, for I don't know what reason, it got called the Pike.
For some reason, pike is a very nautical term, and I don't know why.
I don't know why either.
Maybe you like stab a tuna or something with a pike?
I guess so.
It's got to be that. Why are we even questioning it?
I mean, my guess, there has to be fact.
My guess, that doesn't sound right.
I got a lot of info from a blog titled Atomic Redhead, and they stated that lurking in the shadows of the Pike pretty much from like the 20s on were like peep shows and gambling places and prostitution.
The dirty parts.
Yeah.
The dirty bits.
Solidifying its existence as a oceanside pier. As we
Right.
all know, all oceanside piers are a little bit like
You
that.
can't have an oceanside pier without a peep show.
Yeah, exactly. Every pier that didn't completely burn down, the piers were seedy, but as the decades went on, the seediness outgrew the family friendliness and it fell into disrepair. And so the only thing there was seediness. And then, like everything else, it's just the 70s and everything's just.
And that's how Long Beach started.
So let's take a look at one ride in particular, the Laugh in the Dark, which was like the funhouse scary ride.
Speaking of the Batman, isn't that the name of like a storyline of the Batman?
It might be. I think it's Laughter in the Dark. So the Laugh in the Dark was a funhouse scary ride through the dark, and everything was like day glow painted, and like there's a big ape and it pops out, and
like
it smells like a
spookorama.
A spookorama, yeah. It smells like fog machine
Right.
fog, and it's literal perfection. So the year is 1976, December at the Long Beach Pike Pier. 3 years before it would eventually shut down for good. A TV crew arrives at Laugh in the Dark ride to get ready to film an episode of the $6 Million Man titled Carnival of Spies. The crew was
also a good name for the ride.
It is very good, yeah. The crew was setting up, and there was an area that was done up to look like the gallows with like day-glow red painted dummies as props. And a crew member knocked into one of the dummies, and the dummy's arm fell off. And the crew member picked up the arm and got the glue ready to fix the arm back onto the dummy. And that's when he noticed bones and joints. This is alarming, and did the only thing he could think of doing. He called the $6 Million Man to solve the mystery. Now
we can rebuild him.
We have the technology. They called the LA County Medical Examiner to come down to Long Beach Pike Pier, and there was confirmed this was no dummy, it was a mummy. This was the mummy of the Long Beach Pier.
We called the mortician who had just gotten back from Dr. Seuss's house. Okay, I'm peaked. I'm piked about the peak.
I'm piked.
Wait,
so who the hell is the mummy of the Pike Pier? It was up to the senior deputy medical examiner.
Okay, wait. Let me just get a feel for what this hanging thing. So it was a prop. They brought it as a prop.
No. It was a prop that already had been there at the fun house.
Oh, okay.
It was in the background.
From the fun house. So did it look? What did it look like?
I have pictures if you want to see. Oh, I'll have to send them to you.
Yes, I'll look later. And
Okay.
I'll insert my reactions.
I've seen black and white photos. It looks like if I saw it, I'd think that's a dead body. Like that's an old dead body.
Because I'm imagining like a scarecrow almost.
Kind of.
But like that.
You're giving it a lot. It was
right.
not dressed up at all. It was painted red. It was like nude, but painted. So it was just like a silhouette. They wanted just a silhouette.
So it was just kind of like we know that figure, that fine figure that a mummy cuts. It's like that sort of like an arrowhead almost.
It just looks like a corpse. If you're thinking mummy wrapped up in a Egyptian tomb, you're thinking the wrong thing. I'm thinking of a mummified
of King Tut
cadaver.
Okay.
So it's up to the senior deputy medical examiner Joseph Choi and the chief medical examiner Thomas Noguchi to find out. So based on the Y-shaped incision on the mummy's chest, they could see that it had once had a very simple autopsy. Pathologists were able to determine that this was a male Caucasian between 30 to 40 years old. He had been embalmed, and the fluid had petrified the organs and kept them in the normal anatomical positions. They found a bullet wound on the chest, but no bullet was found. From the wound, though, they could see that the ballistics from the bullet jacket was from a like 20 to 32 caliber projectile that had ripped through his 6th right rib, the right lung, the diaphragm, the liver, and the intestines.
Okay, this is gross. Don't talk about intestines when I have kidney stones, but you're just aggravating it.
It's a completely different thing, but please don't talk about it. You're going to summon it. And they kept...
Did he have kidney stones? That's all I want.
Well, that's probably how he died. And how
kidneys were stones at this point.
And then once his family found out, they didn't want him anymore. They want to bury him because they found out what a loser had kidney stones.
He was tainted.
Yeah.
No one wants a son with kidney stones.
So they kept investigating this dead guy like he was a treasure chest found in a museum basement. They looked into the bullet tracings. The bullet jacket was half copper and introduced in 1905 and discontinued before World War II. So he's old. The embalming fluid was involved.
How old is he? We don't know.
We don't know. We're trying to figure it out. Give us a couple days.
Results yet.
The embalming fluid, which involves arsenic, had fallen out of favor in the early 20th century. So they're narrowing down exactly where this corpse. Frame. Yeah. So they kept digging in this guy. Like they dig in this guy, and they found.
God, death is humiliating. Go on.
Just burn me. Just please burn me.
Burn me and put them in the ashes with the lady I was having an affair with and her husband.
Just all those people. Everybody that I ever said hello to, just let's all end up in the same urn together.
A little bit in each one.
So they're digging through him, and they find a 1924 penny.
What?
And some ticket stubs stuffed down his throat.
What?
There was only one legible ticket stub, and it read, Louis Sonny's Museum of Crime, 521 South Main Street, Los Angeles, a block away from, of course, the Cecil Hotel. It had been closed for years, but Long Beach PD got into contact with the son of the owner who had died, and his son's name was Dan Sonny. So the son is alive, the dad who ran this museum is dead. So here it is. His father, Louis Sonny, was very interested in crimes. He was a real murderino, if you will, after he spotted
What does that mean? What does that mean? Is that Italian?
Is that some sort of pasta dish?
It sounds delicious. Can I order it to go?
I'll have 2 things. Thanks. So Louis Sonny, he spotted and apprehended a bank robber named Roy Gardner. I don't know at what point in his life, but he did that in his real life. And with that, he got a $5,000 reward for his capture. And Sonny went on to make a silent film with the humble and very subtle title, I Captured Roy Gardner. He took this movie on a... Me, parentheses, me, Louis Sonny. So he takes this movie on a tour around the country, and as he toured, he found himself collecting a number of sideshow-type curiosities, mostly wax figures of outlaws like Billy the Kid and Jesse James. This collection became the Museum of Crime, which he toured, and in 1922, Sonny accepted this corpse as collateral.
Hang on, are you describing the movie House of Wax?
Oh, that's why I keep talking about Vincent Price. Oh, I figured it out.
I knew it. I was wondering why the articles I was reading had a weird vocal affectation.
He's kind of like a grandpa, but like a spooky grandpa. That was the voice I was getting from.
But also a little sexy.
On the fence about sexuality. You don't really know.
Could go either way. Doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. So this mummy fell into Sonny's lap as collateral for a $500 loan in 1922.
Sonny needed a new mummy. Okay, so he knew it was a mummy, though. He knows it's a mummy?
He knew it wasn't a wax figure. He accepted it as a corpse. So when the borrower defaulted, Sonny found himself stuck with this corpse. So what did he do? He made the corpse part of the crime museum.
Okay.
So this asks the question, who the F word is the corpse? So let's get to that. Dan Sonny was able to reveal its identity as Oklahoma outlaw Elmer McCurdy.
Okay, weird name. But also, why did they stuff a ticket stub down his mouth?
I have no idea.
Even you need admission.
Exactly. Even he pays. Watch. I think that it was just like unsupervised people walking around a wax museum. They're like trash can.
Yeah, like when you leave LACMA and you have the sticker and you put it on the wall.
Exactly. That was their equivalent of that, since there was nothing sticky at the time.
It was a proud tradition. Put your ticket stub in this dead man's mouth.
McCurdy was a expert safecracker and a murderer who had shot and killed a man in Colorado at the turn of the century. He was born in Maine in 1880, the same year as Dolly Osterreich.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And at the age of 23, moved to Kansas, where he failed at being a legitimate member of society. He was a plumber and worked in the mines before enlisting in the army, and once he gets back, pretty quickly turned into a life of crime. He was not great at that either. He'd been getting charged but acquitted of burglary in Missouri in 1910. He and his crew, which included an outlaw named Walter Jarrett, tried to rob trains, and they were not good at it. Usually only getting...
Wait up!
They usually only got hundreds of dollars when the loot could have been like tens of thousands of dollars. That's like not good they were.
They robbed transporting the contents of a bank's vault.
Yeah.
But they didn't go into that car, and they just robbed a bunch of old
robbed
ladies.
like all the silverware from the lunch cart next to it. It's funny when I think about like the big outlaws, like Billy the Kid, whatever, and you're like, well, how did they get so notorious? They probably killed a lot of people, but like, Butch Cassidy and the Wild Bunch and all those were probably really good at what they were doing.
Yeah.
They weren't nobody.
Yeah, people admired them a little bit.
Yeah. So yeah, him and his crew were notorious along the Kansas border. He'd served time in Oklahoma Territorial Penitentiary and escaped from that in 1911. After that, he led an attack on the Missouri Pacific train near Coffeyville, Kansas. So in October October of 1911, he held up a train thinking there would be thousands of dollars in Native American tribal payments. What they found was $46. So they stole whiskey crates to compensate because that's what we were going to buy with the thousands of dollars anyways.
What an insult. The Native Americans have to pay the government this money that they shouldn't have to pay, and then someone robs that
them.
Payment before it can get to the government.
Yeah, this is most of the story of A Bug's Life. After this heist, like immediately after, the hunt is on for them.
Who's Thumper? Wait, isn't there a Thumper, or is that from Bambi?
That's Bambi.
But
You're thinking of the...
There's like a grasshopper who like thumps his tail. He's pretty
No,
like
there's
Richard
a
Kind.
caterpillar that's really big if you're thinking of that.
Richard Kind's in it, right?
Richard Kind is in it.
Okay, that's a win for me.
James Wood is also in it, which is a lose for me, but he has one of
Is
the best
Chevy
lines.
Chase in it?
If I didn't promise Mother on her deathbed that I wouldn't kill you, I would kill you, is one of my favorite lines. Richard Kind is in it, isn't he?
He is.
I forgot what I was talking about. Okay, so they
There
rob
goes
this
our
train. They
memory
get
again.
$46. They steal a bunch of
Right.
whiskey, and they're on the run from the police now. The police.
Is that even a crime if it's $46?
I know, just take... Okay, whatever. Just let them go. So the gang splits up, and 2 days later, McCurdy found himself hiding in a ranch in the Osage Hills, getting loaded with field hands and thinking he got away scot-free. He did not. He woke up to the sound of sheriff deputies surrounding the barn, and McCurdy thought, they're going to have to take me dead or alive. So the deputies chose dead.
You know what the punishment for this is, don't you? Mummification.
We're going to laugh at your corpse for decades to come.
You're going to the crime museum, buddy.
So McCurdy came out guns blazing, and they shot and killed him. Sorry, Charlie. So how does this dead outlaw in Oklahoma wind up in the $6 million man 60 years later? So the deputies killed him. They have Elmer McCurdy's body in custody, but he's dead. So they take him to the Johnson Funeral Home in Pahuxa, Oklahoma, and there he sat for 4 years, unclaimed, collecting dust. Nobody wanted to claim his body. So in 1916, 2 people claiming to be the relative of McCurdy's...
Why don't they just get, like, there should be a, like, at work, we have a lost and found that lasts for like 6 months.
Yeah, just toss it in.
Mortuary, same policy.
So 2 people claiming to be relatives of McCurdy's from California had the body shipped out west. I doubt they were, because from this point, his corpse becomes a sideshow attraction, touring nearly every city in the South and the West.
This is what he would have wanted.
I just want to travel. I just want to see the West.
No matter how.
I just want to see In-N-Out one time in my life. I wasn't able to confirm, but it looks like this traveling attraction are the people who borrowed money from Louis Sonny and left McCurdy's corpse as collateral. So it traveled with Louis Sonny until 1949 when Louis died. His son then put all his dad's museum exhibits in storage for like 20 years until 1971 when he sold his dad's exhibits to the Hollywood Wax Museum. One of the pieces from Sonny's exhibitions that did not get purchased from the Hollywood Wax Museum was a 60-year-old cadaver of Elmer McCurdy. Ask me why. Because it was not lifelike.
Oh, God.
So they passed on a real class act. So then the corpse was bought by the Long Beach Pike Pier for the Laugh in the
What
Dark
an
Funhouse,
insult.
where it sat for 5 years before his arm was knocked off and got this whole investigation going.
I mean, he was like a murdering criminal,
That's
so
what
I
I
don't
kept
feel
having to
that
tell
bad,
myself.
but like, come on.
Even the murderous outlaw Elmer McCurdy had paid his debt to society by having his nude corpse on display this long. His remains
It was painted red also.
It was also painted red. His remains were shipped to Oklahoma, where forensic anthropologists were able to confirm 100% that this was Elmer McCurdy using old photographs and mugshots. And it's scary because the book
Looks just like...
the book that I have, that I found the story in, has like a mugshot from him. It might be actually like the death photo, like after he was killed, and a picture of what they found in the 70s. And it's, I don't want to say heartbreaking. It's a little bit heartbreaking. But you can see how this was him.
Yeah.
It's upsetting to me.
How can it be heartbreaking when his heart was removed 60 years
60
earlier?
years ago. He was formally buried in April of 1977 at the Summit View Cemetery in Guthrie, Oklahoma, buried alongside his peers, outlaws, and politicians. And that's the story of Elmer McCurdy and the mummy of the Long Beach Pier.